Huawei actually was very aggressively investing on actually building the 2G network to then moving to 3G and 4G.
When you say that you saw the entire growth, what were certain things which were happening in telecom sector in Huawei?
They were one among the top 3 in the world to come up with the solutions. Among the 10,000 people, I was one. And like within 3 years, it was like 25,000 people.
So what is your first memory of meeting your co-founder?
वहाँ जो करते थे यहाँ नहीं करना है. I have seen startups with 20 people, like 19 engineers and one founder trying to sell. So my first hire was a seller, second hire was a marketer. And that's where we started struggling here. We are not able to support. Then we hired 2 engineers.
8 customers in India, all SMEs. कि अब ये product बनाना है. What's the next step?
There were people who were saying $100, it's fine. There were people, yeah, इसका तो मैं $10 भी नहीं दूंगा.
After sorting prices, what were some major challenges to grow the company at this level?
So you need to build trust. Trust is built by transparency. I think most of the Saturdays I worked. There were times when I used to go to office in the morning like 9 and come back next day 5 a.m. or 7 a.m.
There are companies who have lost millions of dollars in the stocks. How are you seeing this? What are certain things that AI will change?
See, technology will happen with the industry movement. Like AI is one, or cloud was there. So you have to be early adopter and early mover. If you're very clear about the requirements, I think we knew that we can build anything.
Hi everyone, I'm your host Shivank and we are part of the 01 Network by Zerodha. Together, we intend to bring you insights from the top thinkers in the field of entrepreneurship, technology and investing.
The previous guest of the show was Mr. Sanjay Nayak, who was the founder of Tejas Network.
Okay.
So Tejas Network ka last month stock rose to 80% up, and it's one of the telecom giants, and it will be among one of the product-based company from India who will be the global player. And he was telling about the Huawei story, that one reason for the success of Huawei was that China government has given them $100 billion worth of subsidy over the years. Uski wajah se they were able to go and compete with the global players. So this was the second-hand understanding of the thing. But I want to understand more from you. When you say that you saw the entire growth, what were certain things which were happening in telecom sector, in Huawei, of course, apart from the tailwinds in the telecom sector, which led to that growth? And what were a couple of learnings? I know that you also met your co-founder in Huawei, right? But what were other learnings that you were seeing? What were the stories inside Huawei during that time?
So very hard because among the 10,000 people, I was one. And like within 3 years, it was like 25,000 people. So very hard to weave that because I joined from a campus, and it's very hard to get that complete understanding what's happening across several departments. But I think when something grows fast, right, I think there has to be a wave in the industry itself, in the market itself. That's number one. Because however good you do and the market is not growing or there's no wave, I think you hit the ceiling very fast, right? Or the growth plummets. So that telecom itself was booming across the globe. The second thing which I saw, that there was a rapid transition or demand also from the consumers where technology has to rapidly evolve from what I've seen from that 2G to 3G to 4G and all, right? So Huawei actually was very aggressively investing on actually building that 2G network to then rapidly moving to 3G and 4G. They were one among the top 3 in the world to come up with the solutions, right? And third, along with the core solution, I've seen Huawei actually deploying a lot in building the ecosystem around those core solutions, building that intelligent network solution, building those business intelligence platform, which I was part of. Several, so they were probably one of the few vendors who were giving the whole complete solution across core networks and intelligent networks and all. Whereas there might be some specialized folks who are giving 1 or 2 things, but if somebody, let's say Airtel or maybe Reliance or Jio or anybody wants a complete solution for a 4G, maybe Huawei might be one of the top 2 or 3 vendors globally who would give end-to-end. So that aggressive investment also helped. And the fourth, I would say Huawei's aggressive culture, right? Like right from top. What I've seen, whatever visibility I had to VPs and senior VPs and some CXOs, like we used to work really, really hard. They were not scared of giving a commitment, right? Say if some telcos, they wanted a new solution or some major changes in 6 months, they would commit and say, okay, we'll deliver. And they used to put tremendous effort and they used to meet those deadlines, right? That was one of the also good thing for me, like when you joined as a fresher, and you from the first 2-3 years, whatever you work there, you're putting so much of effort and hard work. And when you see also translating into results and the growth, I think that becomes your DNA as well, right? Initially. So if I have to tell you, like in the first few years when I was working there, actually, I don't remember, maybe very, very few Saturdays. It was a 5 days a week, working week. I think most of the Saturdays I worked. There were times when I used to go to office in the morning, like 9 and come back next day, 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. But it was like, I used to like that kind of work, and several of my colleagues were also working hard with me, and we learned a lot. Like how to build how to conceptualize a product, how to build that product, how to design that, how to integrate in the larger ecosystem, and then actually roll out and see it working live. And it's very rare opportunity to see something getting built from scratch.
2 things. What was your first interaction with your co-founder? Second thing, what were certain things that you implemented from Huawei to Whatfix? कि यार वहाँ पर ऐसा करते थे हम, तो यहाँ पर भी ऐसा करेंगे. What were certain those things, and what is your first memory of meeting your co-founder?
And maybe वहाँ जो करते थे यहाँ नहीं करना है.
Of course, that also.
Right. So I was part of one of the product which evolved as a business intelligence product line in Huawei. I had started that with 3 people team, and then maybe in I think as soon as we became 7-8 people, I think Vara was the one who joined. He was in other product line, and then he was transitioned here. That product line was completing its life cycle. That's where I met him. So he joined as an engineer. I was a module leader, like a senior engineer, you can say. And that's how we started working together. We worked for 9 years there. And that product, that reporting solution, which was a small component, in 8 to 9 years, it evolved as a whole product line, more than 110 engineers, which included research and UX and everything. Where Vara ended up leading the whole technology group there of that 110 people product line, and I was leading the whole management of that. That's how we work very closely, and we came out and we carried forward the similar role. We complement each other very well. Things which we carried forward from Huawei or from my previous experience was how to build things at scale, right? Like if we are very clear about the requirements, I think we knew that we can build anything. It's just we need to understand what the market wants or what the customer wants. We thought building is not a problem. Understanding and delivering the right solution, that is more important, right? And to ensure that, what we did is actually, which I also feel is very counter to many of the startups which I see today. Like there are 2 engineers who are starting a company, and the 3rd guy, 4th guy, 5th guy they hire are engineers. Because that's the strength, and they add to that strength. But I know that my strength is building a product. But my weakness is I don't know how to market.
Market, huh?
Right? How to market, how to sell. So our first employee was a seller. Because we thought, if pata chal gaya what to build, we can sell. Like if we understand the customer, and if we know how to sell, if we get the requirements, build to kharidenge. So my first hire was a seller, second hire was a seller, third hire was a marketer. And that's where we started struggling here. We are not able to support. Then we hired 2 engineers. This is very different than I have seen startups with 20 people, like 19 engineers and 1 founder trying to sell. So that's one thing which we had learned from there, apart from scale, which I mentioned. Second is very important to align the whole group or a team to a single mission, right? Like what we are trying to build, what we want to do. So everybody aligns and everybody actually puts the right effort. Thing which we didn't want to do from there was actually, things have changed in 2 decades, right? Like people want to spend enough time outside also. So they don't want to slog. They don't want to work, spend like 18 hours in office. So we thought, okay, we will not repeat what we had seen, that people we'll plan in such a way, we'll have to define process such a way that people can manage their work and life both in a very well, in a good way. So in Whatfix, at least what we were able to successfully do is not only deliver a good product, also scale well, but without asking anyone to put night outs or work for 15 hours or something. They can do it in 8-9 hours, and we were able to do that. So that's the thing which we did a little differently.
Tell me too, what was the itch of starting up? You had 2 stints at Whatfix and then you moved on. And then how did you guys came together? आपने कैसे सोचा कि यार अब कुछ बनाना है.
Actually, I worked 5-6 years in Huawei, 2005-6 somewhere. I thought, yeah, I did a lot of building of product and all, which something different I want to try, because I felt working in a multinational, I would hit my ceiling too quick. So my thought process was, I want to work for a company where actually there's a path to CXO. And I felt that is possible. Either I move to US, or if I work in a company where there's a majority of the control in India. And at that point, 2006, 5-6, I thought only it's services, IT services, right? Even in IT services, I didn't want to go to a large company like Infosys, TCS, because I would be lost. So I picked up a small services company, which was like 800,000 people, App Labs. And I said, okay, let me try here. If this company also scales fast, I'll scale along with them. I worked for a few months, like 2 to 3 quarters, but then I thought like service is not my DNA. I've been coming from technology background, product background. So I want to try something in the product. So I did another stint for a few months in another small product company, but then I didn't like the domain and other stuff. And there was, by the time I had got a call from my business head in Huawei saying that there's a crisis in the team, would like to join back. I said, okay, why not? I came back and it actually worked out, right? Maybe I went back to get one out. So after working for a couple of years, we both came out and we started actually.
What was the itch? What was the problem that you were trying to solve with the first startup? Search browser?
SearchEnabler.
SearchEnabler,
So, when we came out, actually, we didn't have an idea, actually, me and Vara. We thought we had hit a ceiling of growth, and because again, multinational. So we need to come out and we'll build something. So we took a small place on rent. We used to visit it every day and think,
कि क्या बनाना है?
क्या बनाना है? Now, when you read TechCrunch and your stories and all, you'll get hundreds of ideas, right? In 2011-12 timeframe, a lot of small businesses were coming online, right? It was solo mode, social, location, mobile, and all the stuff, right? So we thought, let's help small businesses to get some more visibility online. And we built a social media search marketing platform. Our target segment persona was individual business, small business owner. We didn't realize, again, coming from hardcore technology background, we built the product which was a little more complex, and those guys were not able to use it because they're not tech guys, right? That's where we struggled. We got several customers, 50, 60 customers, but then there used to be regular churn. They were not using it effectively. We started deleting features to make them use minimal features, let it be. We saw some basic traction, but then to solve the real problem, we need to make them use more of our features and show them the ROI. And that's where, while doing a lot of iterations, we hit upon this Whatfix as a byproduct. It was a guidance system on top of SearchEnabler, which will help my SearchEnabler users to use Whatfix features.
That was
we use my SearchEnabler features. It was a fix-it button, actually. And some of our SearchEnabler customers told, can I use this in my website, in my application? And we were only 2 people company at that point. Right, and we thought at least some things were clear. Okay, we need to go deep. We need to do very small specialize in some area. We can't do too many things, otherwise nothing will work. So we debated for 2 to 3 days. Kya karna hai? Like people are asking for this. 3.5 years it was in SearchEnabler. There was a fatigue also, and I was very bullish that we'll move on to something new. Whereas Vara was mentioning here, right, what we are trying to say. If we move something new, we're starting from scratch. All this through 3.5 years effort, what we have got, it is gone. And we will not do both. I said yes. So we sent a message to all the 50, 60 customers that we'll refund, we'll cancel this another 3 months, take your data. And then we completely started focusing on Whatfix. It started moving well. That was a good decision, I would say.
I'll go back to that decision, but help me understand, what was the product with the SearchEnabler, and what was this fix-it button?
So, okay. So, let's say there's a Plaksha website, right? Now, Plaksha website, there's no clear marketing person assigned. But you want this Plaksha website to be, when somebody searches for a top institutes or something, it should come into search. It should come into social media and all, right? Now, search engines and social media and this websites work with identifying some signals using which they will rank this, the search engine optimizations and all, right? So how do I how do I make sure that my business website is aligned?
Has those signals so that the Google can rank my website up. Yeah.
So what I would do is I would actually try to understand your website. I would try to understand competition websites. I would try to understand how those search engines rank. How does those social media pages rank things.
So आपका web crawler था?
हाँ, web crawler था. हमने deep linking मतलब वो page link, page ranks and all सब algorithm हमने बहुत कुछ बनाया था. So they will tell you that okay, you need to do this 5 things or 10 things so that your rankings would go up. You will get more visible here. You need to register here. You need to do this, right? Now these are all recommendations or actions which you need to take. Now, problem is if you don't understand those actions, nothing will change. Even if you understand the actions, okay, I need to change this link. Where do I go and change? Because I'm not a tech guy. So somebody needs to handhold you. So we wrote a lot of articles, but nobody was reading in the articles. Right? We created some video tutorials, but nobody had patience to do that. There were several guys coming to us saying that, okay, I'll give you more money, you do it for me. But we wanted to do it yourself because we wanted to cater to millions, right? We can't build a army of services guys, folks and all, right? So we created a button like fix it. Okay, there's a recommendation here. There's a button fix it. So people will be curious. Now, me fix karna hai. Okay, I want to fix this link. Click
Got it.
And as soon as you click fix, now we gave initially that small step 1, step 2, step 3 procedure de diya. So at least we got to know that people are clicking the button because they want to fix it immediately. And gradually that 5-step process, we evolved, okay, when you click fix, let me take them to their website and actually show where the problem is. At some point then, okay, when the problem is identified, we start guiding them, okay, we click on this next button to actually go to your source code or your backend administrative dashboard. Click here to actually, this is a broken link, you need to change this. It's a step-by-step guidance process. So where those customers came back to and saying, okay, can I do this guidance process for my customer who are dropping out of cart or somebody who is not doing this or that? And that's how the things evolved. This was the exact problem statement.
Got it. So now at this point, you are giving back the money that you have gotten from 50, 60 customers, taking a hard call. Yaar, ek business line band karke, we'll double down on this. That was a hard decision. What were 1 or 2 things that help you take this decision? Because losing a revenue stream is hard, right? It's painful.
Yes. So see, in the first one, that SEO or SMO, what we were doing, social media optimization, it was a well-defined industry problem, right? SEO, and there are tons of professionals in the market who are SEO professionals, or social media optimization professionals and all. What we were trying to is actually create a technology for that, right? It was a very decentralized, defragmented problem. Whereas when I look at Whatfix, how I describe the problem actually to simplify it, if you want to go from point A to point B today, when you want to come to this office, you would have used Google Map, right? So before this, before let's say 15, 20 years before the Google Map evolved, you would have called me or my or somebody, or how do I come to Whatfix? Kahan, which bus, which route, right? You're preparing before you start your journey, right? But today you just fire your map and you. So same way, if somebody wants to learn, before Whatfix, they would go through tutorials, PDFs, videos. They would actually, if they can't understand, they will raise the support ticket, which the answer would come after 2 days or 3 days.
Right.
But the world had completely, rapidly was moving towards on-demand. Movie, Netflix, like Uber, Amazon shopping, and the Flipkart shopping, right? Everything was on-demand. So this reading things before, like in support portals, knowledge base, PDFs, videos, I think that was becoming too much of friction. And the problem of people were not able to utilizing things or they were not getting support on demand was becoming a big issue. So we thought Whatfix is actually going to become a GPS for software, and it's going to disrupt, or it can be created a new category. It will become a new category or disrupt traditional mode of learning. I felt it was a much bigger problem, very disruptive, and wanted to give it a shot.
Okay. Then you got to know, you were selling to SMEs. How did you convince your first customer? Who was your first customer after the fix it button?
So there was a hotel management software in Pune. If you remember the name, the Praxify. So what we did is actually, again, because it was a new problem, how do I actually even explain or show them, right? Because to get excited. So what Vara used to do, we build a very basic prototype. We didn't want to do the mistake of the first one, SearchEnabler, that we'll build for 1 year and then we'll go to market.
So
very basic, sketchy prototype we built. And fix it to thai hamare paas wo SearchEnabler mein jo dikhane ke liye. So what Vara used to do, he used to give me 25, 30 email IDs of startups in India. I used to go to the support portal, create Whatfix flow or the step-by-step flow on their product by creating free trial, and then send a mail to them saying, hey, this is your product, this is your support page. Just install this browser extension and just click and see how it can guide your users. I used to get almost like 50% response saying that, man, how did you do this? You are showing on my side, right? And then we used to say, okay, I'll show you, come on a call. That's how actually we did for around like 1.5, 2 months. Every day Dara used to give me all the details. I used to create this, personalized emails and send it to them. We got some 10 customers in 2 to 3 months. All out of 10, 8 were in India, right? And that's how it started.
8 customers in India, all SMBs. You have cracked, कि अब ये product बनाना है. What's the next step? What was the journey to 100?
Yeah, so step 1 was selling, right? Showing the problem. It resonated. Step number 2 was how much they will pay, right? So and the reason of also doing marketing initially localized, like if it was in Bangalore, we never used to call them, they come on a Zoom or let's discuss. Say, where is your office? I'll come. Because I wanted to see the reaction, right? So I would say, okay, what's the price? Now, we didn't have any price in mind. We said, okay, let's see, $100 a month. See the reaction. $1,000 a month. See the reaction. Like, how big is the problem? There were people who were saying $100, it's fine. There were people, yeah, say, iska to main $10 bhi nahi dunga. They were extreme reactions, right? So, but it helped us to iterate really, really fast. So that problem, pricing was another one which we tried to solve, of course, but it's not solved today also, like it evolves. We almost like zero down at that point, like charging them a couple of $1,000s a year, right? $150, $200 a month. The third one was actually to see whether it's actually giving them the ROI value, right? That's where we started facing some issues. Because small businesses, even though there was a problem, but that was not a priority. Their priority was how I can grow, right? How can I get more customers? But Whatfix was trying to support them in their customer retentions or helping them customer use their product, which is important.
Not the deepest pain point.
Immediate nahi. If 5 people come in, 10 people come in, I just want to get 10 more customers. I want to see revenue. So we thought we need to go up market.
Okay.
So the bigger enterprises we went, there were people who were dedicated to solve this problem. Like your internal, if I have bought a CRM, there'll be my operations team or sales enablement team. Their responsibility is to ensure that people use this software. If I am selling Whatfix to my customers, there is a customer success team or support team, right? So they would put the effort to that. And as the company size becomes bigger, the product which was a nice to have for a smaller one became must have. And so we started gradually gravitating towards the enterprise. And that's where we got our sweet spot.
Enterprise, you're still selling to the Indian enterprises?
So our sweet spot is, the bigger the company, the better for us. So we have, as of today, 80 Fortune 500 as our customers, around 700 customers globally. Out of them, majority of them are larger enterprises. 70% of my business comes from US. Around 22% comes from UK and Germany. So Europe also, like 90% dominated with these 2 countries. Around 4 to 5% comes from Australia. India is around 2 to 3% actually, right? So we very few geographies, I'm getting maximum of my revenue.
How did you move to the States? Because most of the companies, have a ceiling mark wo India mein बेचते रह जाते हैं. How did you move to the States? What was the turning point? And help me understand what was your first go-to-market strategy for that market?
See, my go-to-market strategy for anything was actually outbound. Personally, reach out, cold emails and all, right? So that's how I got my first few customers also. And then we had a small community portal where we used to create, like I was explaining you, like I would go to support a document of my prospects, create something and share it, right? So, and support pages of everybody's public. So I used to create a slideshow of those, Whatfix slideshows, Whatfix-based slideshows, and put it in our community portal. Okay, this is how interactive flows are created. Some people those started ranking in Google, and some of them started coming inbound also. And when you come inbound, you can't restrict. It can come from anywhere in the world, right? So I got one customer from Europe, one from Boston. These were inbound. And then we went to GSF, Rajesh Sawhney's, right? And they were actually creating a cohort of around 10 to 12 startups, which would actually go and reside in Silicon Valley for 2 months. And me and Vara both were from Chinese multinational, right? Huawei, we never stepped our foot in US, right? We both of us had studied in India also and worked for telecom. we thought, okay, what do we want from this accelerator? We want to get exposed to the American market, right? And since they are taking us for 2 months, let's give it a try. And we got into GSF. We went 2 months in US. It was an eye-opener. The first eye-opener was charging $100 is not going to work out. It's a one mail. We need to charge more, right? And more interactions, the more we met the people, we realized how do we should package it, how do we sell it, what should be the good price point, what are the different, because we both were from engineering background, we didn't even know the roles on sales and marketing side, what are the different roles and responsibilities. So who are the right personas? So a lot of things got refined in this 2 to 3 months when we stayed in the US.
I know that you're one of your angel investor who turned to be one of your...
Wispy Dower.
Yes. You also met...
So Wispy actually was invited by GSF for workshops, right? So what used to happen every day, there will be a couple of workshops in GSF.
I was a part of last GSF cohort, yes.
Awesome. So you know that, right?
Yeah.
So several folks came in. Ashish Gupta also came in for one of the workshops. Wispy came for one of the workshops. And before somebody used to come for workshop, we used to read about them and say, okay, relevant, not relevant. Right? And if it's relevant, we need to get to that person, right? And Wispy was on the board of a company called Parature before, in a few years before we interacted with him. And Parature was a customer support kind of a software, which was acquired by Microsoft. And he was on the board and he was an investor. And we realized that this guy would know support product or kaise banana hai and Microsoft ko becha hai. So he would know a lot and he's an investor. We need to get this guy. So we hustled and we got some 15 minutes of his time and he resonated like in 5 minutes. He said, this is too good. Come to my office tomorrow and meet me.
Okay.
And in that office, we spoke for an hour and he committed $25,000 or something like that. And then he connected us to a few guys and that's where the cycle started.
But first, how do you hire your angel investor?
So that's how we got him as an angel and he connected to several people and we closed the round. And because we were sitting in India, we wanted more help in US. So Wispy became our go-to guy, right? Now, what happens is when you get to some enterprise customers in US, enterprise prospects in US, they would like to know, like, okay, will you be able to support us? Because there were not many precedents of sitting in India and supporting the customers without physical presence, right? So to build the confidence, we used to get Wispy on call sometimes. Okay, Wispy, can you be on a call and say that, okay, don't worry. Don't worry. If anything is there, I'm also here.
Right.
So just to build that confidence, that's how we started. And then we were participating in one of the events called Dreamforce. We had a 4-booth pass and we were 3-people company or something like that, right? And we didn't even have enough people to stand on the booth. So Wispy said, okay, I'll come. That was a magical thing because we learned a lot about the category and other stuff. And Wispy also saw very closely how this is actually gaining attention of the people in the event. And then I think after that, we signed him for, because we wanted somebody to develop us as in US for a presence. So we signed him as a consultant advisor for 2 days a week. Right? And he was also transitioning to build his own venture fund or something, right? And of course, we liked how things were progressing. I kept on asking him that, would you like to join? Would you like to join? He was also evaluating how big this can become. At some point, I think he started believing and I was able to convince and then he came on board.
What were certain other things that happened in the States during that time, which were kind of, revealing and that kind of changed the journey of Whatfix?
One was actually going to that SMB to enterprise, right? Second is, I would say, enterprise price points. Like in in the first Dreamforce itself, I think in a couple of other places also I mentioned that Prakhar, who was one of the first person who heads my territory sales today, global territory sales. So he was pitching Whatfix to one of the person who was visiting the booth from a larger company. And by that time we were selling for $2,000 a year. And the person asked the pricing of Whatfix and Prakhar said $8,000. Prakhar meant to be $8,000 a year. He said, okay, 8 into 12, $96,000, this works. Right? And we were a little panicked, right? We said, no, it's $8,000 a year. He smiled, right? But for him, actually, he was spending around, if I remember correctly, $20 million on ERP or software. So $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 for ensuring that platform works well, actually, it's a no-brainer. So what we realized that price points actually for Whatfix compared to the underlying platform on which this is getting deployed, which is showing ROI on top of it, can be anything from 3 to 7% of that underlying platform cost. So that was very revealing, and that's how our price evolved very rapidly and how creative we could become on packaging and other stuff. Third, actually, attending some of these events actually help us rapidly iterate the persona. Like, if you see on a how we used to do before when we started, like Whatfix can work for handholding any software, be it startup to be it large enterprise, any kind of function, any kind of a platform. But it's too broad, right? How do I actually enable my sales guys, marketing guys to be very razor sharp in their messaging and positioning? So after getting to some of these events, talking to a lot of people, we said, okay, let's get into CRM, Salesforce. Let's get into maybe SuccessFactors or Workday HR. So we narrowed down to one or two functions, one or two softwares, and who are the users or the buyers of those software, so that our messaging can be very, very pinpoint. So land into those two software and then gradually then expand to other places. So that was another one which was actually very game changing for us in terms of GTM.
Tell me one more thing. You mentioned pricing is still a problem. Why do you say that?
See, pricing is also, one is of course understanding the value. The second is also the confidence, right? If I go and tell my sales guy today that, okay, you need to start pricing for, let's say there's a $100 million transformation project, so you need to price Whatfix for $5 million. They would panic, right? Because they have not seen a precedence of landing at 5 million a year, right? ACV. Say if they have seen 1 or 2 million so far, right? So somebody has to break that ceiling and then everybody starts following. Maybe 3 years prior, if you would have told, okay, I have to sell Whatfix as $1 million land, I think nobody would have, maybe they would have attempted half-hearted because it was forced, right? And nobody would have believed it, that it can be done. But today now everybody believes it. Similarly, 6 years back, 5 years back, if I've said $100,000, same problem. So there is a value, there is a market, but it's also sometimes the confidence, and somebody has to actually show the path. And then when you sell it 100K, when you sell it $1 million or $5 million, $10 million, the sales process also differs. Because the company which is buying, somebody who is writing 100K check may not need many approvals. Whereas somebody is writing $1 million check or $5 million check needs many approvals. There's a single buyer here, there's a committee here.
Right.
The process also changes. So the structure on the Whatfix side or the selling side also has to evolve. Like there's not only a seller, there has to be a solutions engineer, there has to be value engineer, there has to be deal listing. So there are several things also has to evolve gradually here.
If I am building a SaaS product right now, how will I decide the pricing? If you were to decide how much value should I...
I'll give you one simple example. Let's say somebody sells Whatfix to me, right? There are two ways to sell it, right? I can come and sell a Whatfix tool to you saying that, okay, use this tool for helping your employees to use the software better. Now, I have 900 employees. I'm considering as a tool which will help my employees to become more productive.
Right.
Now I am anchored myself as a tool which will help improve productivity. Chalo, theek hai, 50,000, 100,000, 100,000. Something I would say, okay, I would never imagine amount bigger than that because I'm anchoring as a productivity tool, small tool, right? Because there's no direct value associated, it's hard to quantify. Now, if I go and sell my this same Whatfix to my sales department only, for example, sales and marketing part, and say, okay, I can help by ensuring that your metric process or the sales process compliance increases by 30%. Now, there's a metric process is a process where you identify decision makers and your selling process, you discovery and all the stuff. So when all this process happens better, the probability of closing the deals goes up drastically. Like if I go back in last 2 quarters, in metrics, like in every step we score. Out of 16, if any score is more than 12, the probability is like 80% no deal will be closed. Now, how can I move that? You need to do better discovery. You need to ask the right questions, right? Who is going to make decisions so that you will be able to cater to them better. So if I can improve that compliance with the help of Whatfix by nudging them in the right time, that okay, hey John, you're moving this deal to a pilot stage, but you have still not identified the IT and security process.
Because those people will work together.
Yes, can you go back and ask your champion that who are the IT and security, can we involve them now? Or you're going into pilot, but you have not actually even identified who is the budget owner. Uske paas to jana hai na. He has to sign.
Approve, yeah.
Right? So this actually helps. So now if I go and tell to my CRO saying, okay, if you implement Whatfix and for several of these use cases, I'm talking about use cases, I can actually improve your win rate by 2%. I can actually reduce your overage pipe by 30%. Now, if my overage pipe is 10 million every quarter, if I reduce by 30% and 1 million if I win. So if I'm doing, let's say, $20-30 million business, a new business every year, if I increase by 2%, actually I'm talking about like $500,000 of new win rate, maybe a couple of 1 or 2 million from the overage pipe. And then if I can add several more use cases, I'm showing them $2 to $3 million of
Clear cut. Up, down,
only in
side.
one department. I am not going to engineering, I'm not going to product, I'm not going to marketing, I'm not going to product marketing, success and all, right? So if I go and say, CRO, I'm going to give you $3 million value in a year, but I'm going to charge you $250,000, $300,000, he may not flinch so much. He say, okay, really, can you do this? Show me.
And once you,
Yeah. And as the company grows, now I can actually keep increasing the price. And then if I go to success department, actually within Whatfix also, that $50,000 they would have paid me for the tool. Now actually they can even pay me $500,000. Actually shown 10x. So if I'm selling as a tool without clear-cut ROI and hard use cases or hard KPIs or value levers, my pricing power is not there with me, right? So if you can identify those value levers and actually quantify that, you can actually price it on value. The first one which we discussed is the pricing on just your cost or tool. So actually, if you can evolve to price on a value, there's a huge leverage.
So there are, after sorting prices, what were some major challenges to grow the company at this level?
If you're doing, let's say if you're doing 100K a quarter, right? From 1 million to 3 million should be sorted in a year or so. But now for 100K, you need 5 deals for 10K, 20K. Now, if you're doing 5 million a quarter or 10 million a quarter, those will not work. You need several $250,000 deals or $500,000 deals. You need a lot of Fortune pipelines. You need a lot of large enterprise pipeline who are closing 100K, 250K, 500K. So many times, one of the channels will not work which you started with. So you need to create a lot of marketing channels. Like I need to build field marketing. I need to build account-based marketing. I need to build my, of course, inbound marketing, which was working. I need to scale that. I need to make thought leadership. I need to create white papers. I need to, many of those large enterprise, before writing $500,000 or $1 million check, they will ask Foresters and Gartners and IDCs and Everest, like, okay, which is the company which I should work for? What are the pros and cons, right? So they should be also aware, like, okay, what is Whatfix bring into the table? Where does they lie in the spectrum? Similarly, to cater, as I was mentioning, for large deals, it's not only one seller. Seller has to be backed up with sales engineer, solutions engineer, value engineer, right? Then post-sales, company muscle has to also evolve into ensuring that large enterprises are actually deploying Whatfix in the right way. So many integrations are there. So it's not only customer success person or customer support, customer success, project managers, implementation engineers, solutions engineers. So the company also has to evolve across all functions to cater to this growth. And each of these functions, again, you need to have the right people. You need to get the right leadership. The process has to evolve. All this takes a while. Gradually takes a while to build.
You mentioned close to 80 Fortune 500 companies, right? Which was your first Fortune 500?
In India, we started working with ICICI. Globally, we started working with Procter & Gamble, I think, at that point.
How did you crack ICICI and Procter & Gamble?
ICICI, we landed into innovation department and started working, and they helped us because it was something different. So they wanted to show so that there's a cutting edge tech which they can be used. And P&G came in now.
Okay. Because, selling to, let's say, Fortune 500, what are one or two things that you have understood about these big enterprises, the Fortune 500 enterprises?
Sales cycles are much longer, right? Like
because the decision making is
because there are several people involved. It's not one person, right? Like and specifically when you're working for smaller company, SMEs or smaller ones, startups and all. Of course, they'll make quick decisions. There are lesser people involved, and there are less scrutiny on security and other aspects. But when you go for larger enterprise, those comes also very upfront. Is your product secure enough? Because they have a lot at stake.
Yes.
Right? Then how the deployment would happen? Who are the people who would get involved? In small startups and all, maybe the pilots are not needed. Here, most of the companies would need 3 months or 2 months pilot to be done actually. So it differs a lot in both ways, right? So a small business, if you're closing in 15-30 days, this would take 4 to 5 months or 4 to 6 months. That's why the pricing also has to be justified.
Makes sense. So when you build a content layer of over all these, softwares, SAP, Salesforce, HCM, do you face any problem? Are these people happy about that? And how do you integrate the product with so many softwares in the world?
So we don't have to integrate with each one of them, right? So how we work is we create a layer on top of those software, irrespective, right? I can start on SAPs and actually my process can continue on the second product, third product, because sometimes the employee, let's say they're creating a contract, my contracting starts as CRM and it might end in a financial software or contracting software. It has to be seamless. So somebody has to guide them through. So, and most of the softwares are web, for example. So I can just guide them using a browser extension. I don't need to integrate actually. I can have a browser extension which can create an overlay on top of it.
Makes sense. And do you face any challenges when you build a Chrome extension over these things? Do you face any hindrance from these software companies?
If you look at how things have evolved in the last 15, 20 years, it was on-premise everything, right? On-premise, how it work, I will sell any my ERPs or CRM for 5 million, 10 million, perpetual license. And then move on. I will do some AMCs or even support patches or something. But the onus is on the buyer. Because he or she has spent 10 million. We have to karna hai, right? The world has changed in the last 10, 15 years where things became recurring or subscription basis, SaaS. So SaaS, there is no perpetuity. I'm signing few months contract or a year contract or 2 years contract. If I don't see value,
and cut out.
I'll move on, right? Now people are bothered about adoption. So any company, whether it is Salesforce, whether it is SAP, anyone, right? Everybody's product management will be bothered about delivering value. The value will only deliver if people use it. So they are happy that somebody here Whatfix and help them.
Makes sense. But while you create this layer, do you also need to have the understanding and the nuances of an industry or a business?
So if we have, it helps.
How do you get it? So if somebody, so for example, to build and cater to any enterprise, you need to understand, you need to be the expert of that domain.
I'll give you an example, right? Let's if you talk about bigger buckets, let's say insurance, oil and gas, banking, manufacturing. Now let's say insurance. Insurance, there are too many insurances, like life and annuity and blah, blah, right? Take property and casualty insurance. Property and casualty, right? It's a small portion of it. A property and casualty insurance if I go and tell the head of compliance or head of some business, saying, okay, I'm going to help your employees to become more productive. Immediate reaction क्या होगा यार HR से बात कर लो या मेरे किसी और से बात कर लो IT से, right? But if I'm going to say कि यार, like, if your insurance agents are not compliant to your processes and if they do defaults, you might be incurring penalties from our regulators.
Right.
I'll help you to avoid any errors. Right? You're processing $2 billion worth of insurance on this. Right? I'll ensure that each of your insurance process timing is squeezed by 20%, so you can do more. Right? Your guys, right? So similarly, if I identify 3-4 clear-cut, hardcore, hard values on this property and casualty insurance, and those guys are such a cutthroat competition, they say, okay, this guy is going to improve my compliance, going to reduce my errors, and so on. So maybe let me look into it. Same tool. One was generic, productivity, and this was very specific. So understanding the business, understanding the nuances of that particular industry segment and going as narrow as possible actually help us to when you talk in their language, with their KPIs, their business problems, of course they won't listen.
So if I have the capability to build a product and to solve a problem, how should I go? Just one way is, of course, go work in that industry 4-5 years, spend some time, and you will understand the nuances of that industry. But if I have to build fast, right? And if I know how to build, how should I pick up the industry and the domain? And how should I go about understanding the nuances of that industry? Are there any tips and tricks around that thing?
Like, it's very hard for you to go and think, okay, with 5 years if I want to work in one company and one industry and then learn and come back. You won't know do that, right? But you have a problem statement. That's not a hypothesis. This is a problem. This is applicable in these few industries or this persona or whatever it is, right? You start from there. But you need to be very clear that I'm going to narrow down. Today I'm not able to because I don't have enough idea. So you are throwing darts
everywhere,
few places.
Pray and pray.
And you're trying to learn with them. Where is it resonating more? Where am I actually solving the problem? What is actually the business case? And is this business problem going to be repeatable and I can solve with my product for the same persona, for the same industry in all the companies? So now you're trying to narrow down. So one way is, let's say you're thrown the dart in the 5 different industries or 5 different use cases. Actually, I don't have enough problems. I'll reduce one. Okay, isko discard kar dete hain. This is the lowest. I'll reduce one. So basically, you're narrowing down. And once you actually are able to pinpoint to 1 or 2 use cases and for a persona in one of the industry, actually you will go very fast. Because you can repeat, these are your SDRs, these are your sellers, marketers. They will start talking only about that. Your whole marketing, messaging, positioning, everything is about that. You can attend the same event. Like let's take example of PNC, right? Each of my SDRs will call and talk about the same thing. I'll attend all PNC events. I'll conduct roundtables, call all those PNC experts. My case studies talks about that. You become a number 1 in that. And then let's say, even if that industry is small, let's say it's only 100, 200 million, and I get 20 million out of it, I can actually start replicating for life and annuities insurance. Then I can go to general insurance, for example, life insurance or something else. So what is this? Actually, is a bowling pin, right? I broke one pin, then is replicating. And if I have done completely for insurance, then okay, digital banking, thoda banking mein jaate hain. Right? Makes sense. Make it broader to BFSI. But if the niche itself which you shortlisted for is working, is big enough, it's $1 billion, then stick to it and make a 100 million ARR company there itself. So how I model, my analogy would be, you know that hourglass, sand, right? It starts bigger. So it's very broad. Then it strips, that's the velocity of the sand. If you say that's the fastest. But you're actually narrowing down. But at some point, you have achieved that threshold, 10, 15, 20, 50 million ho gaya in this industry. This one use case is not going to work. I spread out again.
एक problem होती है SaaS में churn rate, right? And then you also face that problem. If you face the same problem again, or any founder who is building and is facing high churn rate, what would you advise? How to solve that, and how did you solve?
Simple. See, why would somebody churn?
Because it's not useful for me.
I'm not getting value out of it. I'm not getting a value out of it. Right. Let's say if I'm paying $100, I'm not getting any value, or I'm getting value which is less than $100. Right. It doesn't make my economic sense. Or this problem is not important enough for me. That means you are actually the wrong persona, wrong buyer, or wrong segment. Like it happened with us when we were going at a small business, our churn rates were high. We realized it was nice to have. So we went up market. And when we went up market also, we still faced some churn rate. Now why we was churn rate? Because many of those buyers, they thought this will solve a lot of their problems, but again, they didn't know how to use it properly. What are the different use cases they can visualize? So somebody has to tell them also that, okay, use this here, right? It's a new category. If I buy CRM and ERP, I know how to do it, right? But if somebody is buying a digital adoption solution like Whatfix, the onus is on the vendor, because we are the expert. We need to actually tell them, okay, these are the places you need to buy. So we need to go a little deeper, identify few use cases, and actually help them realize the value. Once the value is realized, I think the churn rate will go down. So if the churn rate is high for any startups, I would say, look at why is it wrong segment, wrong buyer, or you're not able to identify and pinpoint and handhold them to implement those use cases. If they can show the value, it will improve.
There are 3 things: people, process, and the product. So if you are, let's say, if you're cold calling someone in a particular industry, either cold calling as a method is wrong, either the person is not able to, convert that cold call, or you're selling to the wrong geography or the wrong to the wrong person. So you spoke about the product may, if product is right, you will solve that problem. How do you solve the people problem? And how did you solve the channel problem, which is the way, the cold calling method? How was the process for Whatfix in coming up for these 2 points?
So I would say don't do too many channels in the start, right? Because see, each channel also will need iterations to figure out exactly what's working, what's not working. Like even if you look at Google Ads, as simple as that, your ad copy has to be iterated. From ad copy, somebody is clicking, you have to go to the landing page. Landing page, what it talks also should match the ad copy. Otherwise, people's expectations are different when they're landing there. So that also has to be iterated. When the landing page mein aane ke baad, if somebody fills up the form, they also set the expectation from the ad copy to landing page, and after filling up the form, if SDR is picking up the call or they're calling, it should be matching what they're talking, right? They should understand what kind of objections are. Now, if you have, again, too many use cases, too many broad things, very hard to actually train so many people. There are 5 industries, 5 different use cases, and somebody is filling up the form. As an SDR, as a BDR, or as a sales guy, how can I context switch so much? Suddenly I'm talking about oil and gas problems, or suddenly I'm talking about banking problem, and all is very hard. But if I have very, very narrowed down a channel and very much narrowed down on a use case, it's very easy to enable them. Now coming back to people, right? So people enablement happens if you again narrow down. So narrow down is a very key important. Now it might be still a people problem. It might be skill, will, whatever it is. So I think Ashish Gupta had given me a very good tip at that point, like experiment in pairs.
A/B testing in people,
So what happens is like, see, there are few variables. Like here variable, if you're starting a channel or something, now variable is, I don't know whether it's people problem. I don't know whether it's my messaging problem. I don't know, maybe the market segment problem. I'm trying a new country or something. No, ab nahi chal raha hai, so I don't know which one is the problem. How do I narrow down? So if I'm experimenting in a pair, if I'm doing two people, at least if both doesn't work, I know that there's a high probability. It's reducing one variable, right? So same way, the lesser the variables you are, the faster you can iterate.
ChatGPT launched 4.0, right? And today, there are companies who have lost millions of dollars in the stocks. How are you seeing this? And what are certain things that AI will change in the DApp world that you are leader in?
See, any technology, right? Whether it was mobile or whether it's Web3 or blockchain or whatever we keep here, we've seen several coming in the trends actually. So in the short run, we overestimate what technology can do. In a long run, we underestimate, right? So of course, people overestimate that kal disrupt ho jayega, change ho jayega and all, and people react very quickly. But definitely there will be a lot of impact in long run because everything will change. Like how I see AI is 20 years, a couple of decades back when the cloud came in, right? So today you cannot visualize building a company without putting on a cloud.
100%.
It's a default infra mode. It's a default, right? So same way I would say going forward, I think there won't be any company without considering AI as another infra or as a tech stack. So like cloud is there, AI will be there. Every company will be built on AI. So it's default. So without, it will not. And of course with AI, a lot more expectation from the customers or expectation from what we were delivering. Initially we were delivering workflows. We will not only deliver workflow, we'll also promise them outcome. Right? So a lot of things, a lot of expectations, all these things would change. Of course, like in DApp also, right? Like how we used infra of cloud, we use infra of browser. I think we will also use infra of AI, right? So see, so far, it was expected that humans will adapt to technology. Like we learn technology, will adapt. That was expectation. We all used to do that. With AI, I think it's changed. We will see that technology will start adapting to humans.
Your own userization philosophy.
Exactly. We wrote a paper and this was before AI came in.
Yes, I know.
Right? And now it's becoming reality. Now we can digitalize it. True. And this is what we call userization.
Can we see that paper? Is it still available?
It's available. It's online actually, right? And a lot of people are talking about this actually nowadays, right? And it's called userization. So that's one. And now if I break it down further, see, every user, when they interact with a software, they do primarily three things, like very fundamental. Read, I read stuff. I query something, I read. I write, and I execute. वही करते हैं, उससे कुछ नहीं करते हैं. If these fundamental blocks, if I can actually accelerate all these three with the help of AI, I'm doing good amount of job. And that's what everybody is trying. Co-pilot, naam de do, kuch bhi de do. So when somebody is actually reading, can I make it more intelligent? I can summarize it, make it faster for you. I can bring it from multiple sources and make some sense for you, right? So if I do that on a sales CRM, I can do that on ERP, I can do it on hundreds of things, right? Can I help you to put things faster, like write things? Can I help you and assist when you're writing? Can I rephrase it for you? So there can hundreds of things I can do. Same way when you execute, can I do automated execution for you, right? So we are trying to create that layer of read, write, and execute across any software for an enterprise. So if somebody is building whatever, let's say Copilot for one software, but there are like, if you look at a larger enterprise, on an average, they have 1,000 plus softwares.
Right.
Out of that, 40 to 50% softwares, 400 to 500, are custom built either by internal IT or by services companies, Accentures or Wipros of the world. Who's going to do AI for them? There has to be a layer for them. So this is going to be probably Whatfix.
Do you see any signals or particular use case of AI at this time, which you think can either cannibalize or can be a huge opportunity for the DApp world, digital adoption space? Any current signals that you see on ground? Any interesting pieces of use case or certain things?
So some of the things like enterprise search, right? Like the end of the day, what we are actually holding a prime real estate on top of any application. We are sitting there. Now, if you are sitting there, actually, I can utilize it for assisting the users and helping them improve their work in a much better way. So I can now, with AI, it's becoming very easy actually for me to get all the stuff and summarize and give them very precise answers, right, in a much better way. So those are the things which is actually a good amount of opportunity. Second one, which we are seeing in a way, how I can disrupt if I have to rebuild my company actually. Instead of guiding the user, can I actually, and so how it works is today somebody actually identifies a requirement or a process, we build the workflows, and then they execute in the real world environment, right? Can I remove the layer in between? If you have a task, just tell me, I'll execute it for you.
So instead of creating workflows, I'll create an AI agent to execute those workflows.
Yeah. So for that, understanding of that underlying enterprise software is very important. Understanding what kind of processes they will have to execute is very important. Over 9 years, we have accumulated understanding of 40,000 plus processes.
Wow.
We are one of the very, very few companies, maybe couple of companies in the DAP world or in the globally, which would have collected maybe more than 1 million enterprise software's screenshots.
Right.
It's a training data. It's a training data. It's a moat. Nobody has. I think in our competition, nobody has this. So this, we've been actually, even before we entered this AI world with OpenAI ChatGPT launch, we were actually using vision models and training our software to solve this. With AI, with Gen AI and all, we got path, like how can we do faster? So we are already 70% there, some of these things.
Which is your most used AI tool or a productivity tool personally?
So I use for my emails and summarizations and other stuff, I keep toggling between Bard and ChatGPT.
Apart from Bard and ChatGPT?
Then some places I use for image generations and all. So keep toggling multiple. Nothing very specific. I stick to one.
Sir, अभी ऐसा इंडिया में बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं जितने भी SaaS बना रहे हैं, this SaaS world is becoming very crowded right now. Do you still see opportunities? So this is watched by a lot of young folks who are in their college, who have again the capability, understanding of building things, but they don't understand कि यार gap कहाँ पर है. You have been in this industry for so long. Do you see any gaps, clear gaps, that you think if somebody solves these problem statement, it's a huge...
Let me take this problem statement in a different way. Like, okay, I'll go from how you acquire a customer. Let's say, see, for acquiring a customer, you're going to spend some money. Initially, to word of mouth se kuch kar loge, but then scale mein you have to be systematic, right? You will spend on Google ads, you will do field marketing, you will do ABMs, you'll buy hundreds of internal marketing and sales tools, you'll have sellers and all this stuff. It's going to cost you. Let's assume it's costing you $10,000 to acquire a customer, right? Now, when you're acquiring a customer for $10,000, you're going to at least cater to 7, 8 opportunities, so you're going to talk to them.
Right.
And let's say 15-20% is your win rate. So at least 5 mein se ek aap jeet rahe ho, right? So all those 5 combined, you would have spent this $10,000, $2,000 per each one of them. Now let's keep this aside. Now let's take, you have 10 prospects, right? Out of 10 prospects in a category, how much number one guy will win? 5, 6? कभी-कभी वो 7, 8 भी हो जाता है. Let's say 5, 6. Second guy will win at least 3, 2 or 3. Third guy will win maybe 1 or 2. Fourth guy will win maybe 1 out of 15 or 16. Sixth guy will win 1 out of 20. But initially, your word of mouth ko chhod ke, when they want to scale, everybody is going to spend almost same, because Google click rates, field marketing rates, everything is same. Info attend karna hai, any other event is the same thing. So if I'm a number one guy in this category, I am spending for 10 of them, I'm spending $20,000 to get those 10 leads, and I'm winning 5 out of them. I'm building a company which is very unit economically positive. If I'm a second guy, still it is good. If I'm a third guy, for example, I'm winning 1 out of 10, I'm spending $20,000, that customer is giving me only, let's say, $10,000 in a year. It isn't going to work. At some point, you're going to stall. 4th, 5th, 6th. तो 2-3 मिलियन तक पहुंच जाते हैं,
लेकिन
फिर बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है स्केल करना, or the scale plummets or stalls. So the summary here is, unless you are in not top 2 or 3, it's very hard to build a large company, a substantial size company in any category. Now, how to find out a problem here? Let's say if I'm in a DApp or something, right? Or any category, if there is already a mind share where there are 3-4 players who are actually dominating, very difficult to, unless you have a 10x solution, it's very hard. Unless you think that I cannot get into 1-2, it's no point of imitating and trying to build a 2 million, 3 million ARR company.
And you can't also compete on the cost vector.
नहीं चलेगा. It's the cost spectrum में तो कभी नहीं चलता, right? So very hard. You need to have a clear path. या तो फिर मैं if I create a niche, these guys are not catering to this niche, take this niche out, and in this that particular niche, I'm the number one. Like Khadim is not talking about a manufacturing DApp problem, and that's a big problem statement. And there are 20 companies I spoke. Nobody's trying to use this DApp. Why not I build only for them? Like how we did only for CRM for pharma.
Again, narrowing down.
But somewhere I need to be number one. So if anybody is talking about manufacturing DApp, I am the guy.
Yes.
I'll only attend manufacturing events. I'll only going to call up manufacturing guys. So any 10 deals of manufacturing, I'm going to win 5. And unit economics works. So somewhere, this is how I would approach this problem.
And second thing is the category creation. How do you go and create a category?
So if I'm creating that niche, I'm creating a smaller category in that niche. Right? So same way, like if you are solving a problem, eventually the category will get created because more people start using it. Like when we started, there was no defined budget. But now actually we are seeing more and more CIOs are defining DApp budget in their part of their annual plans. For that, you need to actually keep talking to, initially create a lot of awareness of the category, help some solve the problems, let it word of mouth spread among CIOs or your personas, talk to Gartners and Foresters and IDCs because they also will do. So then multiple places it starts working.
I asked to Alok sir, what should I ask? And he said that IMO, he stands out as a people leader. So probe him on the people leadership philosophy. Also, he mentioned that, first let's do this. What's your people leadership philosophy and why do you think Alok sir is saying this about you?
I know Alok should be the right guy to answer this, but some of the principles which has worked for me actually, right? I follow management by exception.
Okay.
Right. So what it means is actually, if I'm working with my leader, if things are going fine, I generally don't poke my nose. I don't lose my slip thinking that, okay, something will go wrong here, something will go wrong there. So I avoid micromanagement. It's okay if small mistakes happen. I don't want to question them why this mistake happened. My question should be, how can we avoid it again? Right? So, and if something is really going wrong, continuous basis, then actually I would like to go deep myself and actually try to solve that problem. Unless then I will give that autonomy. Right? So that's number one. Second, getting all my leaders on same page and actually taking a decision. So at a certain scale, what happens is it's not one guy or two guys who is leading the company. It's a small team leading the large team. And that percolates down. So there's a leadership which runs the company. Within that, let's say sales or marketing or engineering, there's another set of leadership which runs the rest of the team and so on. So everybody has to build that core team which becomes the fulcrum of that particular smaller group.
And how do you build that efficiently?
So you need to build trust. Trust is built by transparency. If anybody asks today in my company that, okay, Khadim, what's the bank balance, what's the revenue, or what's working, what's not working, I would not hesitate कि क्या सोचेगा, तो छोड़ेगा नहीं. I would tell. So far, we have been transparent because unless you are transparent, trust doesn't build. If trust is there, people want to work shoulder to shoulder. Of course, some may not, but at least good amount of people will, and that's good enough, right? Then second one is actually you cannot be like I tell my leaders that try to be effective manager, not a good manager.
What's the difference?
A good manager, let's say if you have 10 people reporting to you, a good manager tries to ensure that all 10 people speak good about that guy, which is not possible. It's a wrong thing to attempt. Out of that 10, there'll be always 2 or 3 superstars, right? Who would be doing excellent, outstanding. There'll be 2 or 3 people who are trying to catch up or they're not able to perform because of various reasons, right? There are 3 or 4 guys who are actually just doing their job. Now, if I am democratic, sabko barabar karna hai, what will happen is I'm going to lose good guys because they are not seeing the good paths. Now, how do I reward these guys? I need to differentiate. If I have X budget, the budget should not be X by 10 for everyone. It should be, like, say, X by 30 for the lower ones, and this guy should get the major portion of that, right? And when you differentiate, the guy, it's very hard to say, okay, you're not doing well. Nobody likes to listen to that. That's a hard talk you need to have. And the guys in the bottom, it's not going to be easy to communicate that. Sometimes you need to ask them to go. Sometimes you need to put them in a performance improvement plan. You have to give them 0 hikes, no promotions. It's hard. So many managers don't want to face that. And if they don't do that differentiation, they will lose good people. And eventually the team will become mediocre. You cannot build a high performing team. So you need to differentiate. You need to set that is also possible. If you go and tell कि आपने ये नहीं किया, before that you have to set the expectation before you tell. So that setting the expectation also sets half of the things right. Okay, this is how we're going to appraise you. This is what you need to achieve, and this is how you can do exceed the expectations. It sets the tone. And there are several such things actually. We can keep talking all day.
आशीष से ने भी ये बात बोली थी कि he is intellectually honest, embraces reality, focused on customer value, and understand that people are his biggest asset. So he doesn't try to be smartest person in the room, even when he is. Please tell us how to achieve as a founder, how to be intellectually honest.
Yeah, so see, first, I'm from an engineering background, for example, right? And I've stopped doing engineering for a decade now.
Right.
So I know I'm not a good engineer now, no more. There are better people than me. Same way, if I'm looking at sales, I have my sales leader who is like 100x better than me. Same way the marketing guy, they are 100x better than me. So I need to actually have a discussion with them on, we need to get to X or Y as a destination, how we can get there. So they are the best person to tell me. I just need to discuss with them, debate with them, identify whether it aligns to the bigger directions of the company and what budgets and other stuff. But they are the people who need to solve that. I just need to help them remove the bottlenecks. I need to become the bridge between different departments. I think that's more important to understand. When you get the experts, give them autonomy, give them the space.
And when you know that the other person is smarter than you, let's say in particular niche in technology or in sales, how do you manage their egos in the sense when you have to tell them to do a particular thing? How do you do that? And do you face any problems? Have you faced similar problems like these?
I used to face very early actually, right? Because when I was also learning how to interact and how to communicate. So now see, what is this leadership trying to do? Or what are these people trying to do? We are all trying to achieve an objective, which is for the company.
Right.
Where we want to, company is now an entity, which wants to go from X to Y now. It's everybody's job. So if I have defined where I'm going with what are the other variables, like, okay, I'm going there with this amount of retention rates. I'm going to there, go to that particular place with X amount of spend, with this amount of efficiency. Now this becomes my broader objective. Now everybody has to align with that objective. So if these objectives are very clearly defined, it becomes easy, right? Now the question is, when my leader, we are discussing about that, any issues what you mentioned, we are not saying you are not doing X, Y, Z or you should do. We are discussing that, okay, we need to do this with an X efficiency. Maybe this might break this part. It's a collective problem. It's not that individual problem. Because we are trying to, our objective, both of our objective is same. It's not pinpointing to a human or pinpointing to an individual. We're trying to solve a problem.
Tell me a couple of times when you used first principles, because you spoke about it a lot. When first principle thinking actually helped you turn around or change the challenge.
See, even if you look at the problem statement which we spoke about, pricing, whether we talk about targeting one industry, PNC, these are all going fundamentally and actually looking at the use cases and all. And if I look in hindsight, maybe we didn't know many of these things maybe 6-7 years back, but we thought very fundamentally on this. Now, take an example of this category creation. Now, category creation, which is very fundamental, like the person who is buying, so he or she doesn't know kya karna hai isme. If I'm buying a CRM, I will have a sales operations guy and administrator and all these things. So it's very logical that I have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Heavy lifting is not just again main customer success. I need to actually also help them in implementation. Implementation में अगर large enterprise में मुझे project management में करना है. So I need to do a lot of setup of a services organization. So even though in DAP, I think probably we were the first company to even set a services organization. We have 80 people, 90 people in the services now. Right? I can't just say that SIs will do it, because they also don't know. So many such things we have done actually, which has actually helped us to get where we are.
If you have to advise someone who is building a new category, what are 2 or things that you would say कि यार अगर category बना रहे हो, so don't forget this.
Yeah, okay, let me give you another example. Let's say you are head of sales for Coca-Cola, for example, for General Motors, right? Now you are using age-old maybe CRM, maybe Siebel or something, and now you want to transition to Salesforce or some new one, right? Or new CRM. I'll not say any name of the CRM. So what will you do actually? You're not going to Google which CRM I want to buy. Because you're a large company with billions of dollars of revenue. You would say, I'm allocating $50 million digital transformation project budget. And I will complete my CRM stack to the next generation. Google नहीं करोगे, आप call करोगे your procurement guy or someone. Can you roll out an RFP for a change of a CRM stack? Procurement guy is also not going to do Google. He or she will create a RFP and call up Deloitte and Accentures and Infosys of the world and say, we are coming up with an RFP for changing our CRM stack. Those guys will come and study your processes and say, okay, along with whichever center of excellence or CRM practice they have. So one guy will say, okay, I'm going to put Dynamics along with this product of contract here, performance here, this is my CRM proposal. Accenture will say, mera Salesforce practice better hai. I will say Salesforce and this is what I will do. So यहाँ पे कोई Google नहीं कर रहा है. Because this is a very well-defined category and the problem statement, they know these things have evolved. There's a mind share clear, right? Now let's say this is done. The CR calls the chief learning officer. This is done. Yeah, but people are not using it. My forecasting and everything is gone for a toss. So CR लोग बोला I have created the workshops, we did 3 days training. But what? What are the other companies doing for this? कुछ तो होगा ना? Why? Because the world has changed. Right, like I was talking about on-demand. The traditional ways are not working. So now there is an inflection where a new category can actually pop. Right? There's one way, right? So they will talk about Gartner, what are people doing for change management in such large transformation? Ask my associate, can you do Google? Or if I go to event and ask this question to my peers, kya karte ho aap log? So there's a possibility of new guy to get in. Fast forward, let's say 10 years. When Accentures or Infosys or Deloitte are actually proposing this CRM stack, they will say CRM, performance tool, contracting tool, adoption tool. By default हो गया. उसमें 2-3 लोगों का mindshare हो गया. So that's where. The second way is actually this is one way when there's a change of habit of how people are. Second is the technology trend. Like when everything moved from on-premise to cloud. Right. So CRM, HR software, which are on-premise, cloud में आ गया, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workday, सबको मौका मिल गया. अभी AI है. So these are some of the areas where the category gets created. There's an inflection point, the change of technology stack, where there's a possibility of creating new big companies and large companies.
And when you create a category, do you have some insights around the change management aspect, which you have realized over the years?
So see, change management will go with habits and technology.
How do you do that habit change and the technology part?
See, technology will happen with the industry movement. Like AI is one, right? Or cloud was there. So you have to be early adopter and early mover.
ठीक है.
Right? Now habit part.
And habit of thousands of people.
So see, habit also actually moves because people start adopting rapidly. Like everybody started moving from your web interface to mobile interface. Right? Mobile में आपने देखा Uber आ रहा है. You're coming in with Amazon, so Netflix. Now this habit which is getting formed on a consumer space, for example, will start replicating everywhere gradually. So what are the other industries which actually this will have an impact? Should I do something here? For example, if e-commerce is booming, there's a possibility of big logistic company. Right? If Netflix is booming, there's a possibility of good maybe entertainment company which is building something for the Netflix audience, very specific. So there are platforms evolving. Can I build something on top of it? That's another way to think about it.
If you have to predict one thing about future, Paul Graham or Peter Thiel, everybody says if you have to do something big, try to predict the future and then reverse engineer some solution for that. What are certain things that you see that will definitely happen in future? What are some signals you are getting from the entire database from this world? Or it can either the future prediction can also happen in any other category that you are passionate about.
See, in our category, what we are doing actually, we are helping people to utilize things better. This was there thousands of years before in how to use an axe for cutting a wood. कोई सिखाया होगा. A few 1,000 years down the road, also there'll be some form of some way of help. The form and how we deliver the help will change. Maybe today we are delivering as an extension or a guidance system on a workflow. Tomorrow it might be augmented reality based or some other ways, right? So we need to be always abreast of what's the technology trend and keep adapting to that. But the core should be same, right? Like if AI, there will be a lot of generic stuff, but if we can specialize, we'll be able to always deliver the guidance in a better way. That's what I would say from my technology perspective, because this is not going to change. Help is always needed. In a generic way, I would say this intelligence, which started from a simple workflows, which is now we are getting into terms of assistant, we'll start seeing on the roads. We'll start seeing in our kitchens. We'll start seeing everywhere, right?
Give me an example.
Like maybe robots preparing my food, right? So that will become pervasive actually in every sphere of, I think, and this will happen much faster than we think, maybe 10, 15 years, 20 years.
Are there any interesting use cases, any pervasive applications?
I think last time when I went to Bay Area a few months back, I was seeing like some bots are delivering foods and all from the restaurants. Like it's already started. Like you have some driverless car testings and all. So this will come in every sphere. Actually, I would say like somebody's cooking food at home. But that's it. And then health is another one actually, right? I think health should get disrupted.
How? Get a couple of ways.
Maybe small bots running in your body, in your thing, which is actually diagnosing. Like we have such a good analytics for every part of the events, what we click on a software and all. There should be good analytics on your body, right? Which will actually preempt things.
Makes sense. What's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now? That can be in personal life or a professional life, both.
By default, professional comes, right? So in fact, I was sharing in my last all hands, right? There are different stages in the cycle of a company when it scales, right? 0 to 10 or 10 to 20 or 50 to 100, 100 to 50. So what got us here would not get us to our next scale, right? Our processes in sales or processes in marketing, the way we build products, everything has to change. Like for example, we were a single product company. In last 18 months, we are transitioning all to multi-product.
Right.
How do I structure my GTM to multi-product? Is my sales guy, like if my sales guy's quota is let's say $250,000 a quarter and he's getting that from one deal of DAP, if my new product, if I want to experiment, I'm okay to sell it for $20,000. But is that person is interested to do that because his quota to mein nahi ho raha hai.
Usko target pe,
So that he or she will not sell that product. What should I read from 5 hops away? Is my product not selling?
No,
right?
It's not the case.
It's not the case. I don't know, right? So how do I structure all those? So these are my problems. How do I remodel the whole org structure? How do I launch new products? How do I check the product market fit at scale now for multiple products?
And how are you going to solve this answer? How are you going to, get the answer?
So innovation part we have solved by creating a Whatfix Labs. So now we have built 2-3 products in last 18 months. Now we are creating for different products. Again, we have to think every product differently. Like some of the products are only bundled products, I don't have to sell separately. I can actually bundle with my existing one. Some products I can sell to only my existing customers as cross-selling. There are some products which can use for land. So for that land, actually, I need to create a smaller group which will be focused on this. They will be compensated separately. These are some of the things which you'll have to iterate and create playbook.
आपने बोला था कि Saturday, Sunday को it's थोड़ा सा chill right now and you go for movies. What is recent movie that you watched that you really enjoyed?
Sunday morning I watched Kingdom of Apes.
Did you like it?
Yeah, actually I watched the whole series. Okay, kids love it actually, so I can tag along with them. And Netflix or Prime, I think one of these I bought that Lapata Ladies. That was also a good movie.
Got it. Do you read books, sir?
I have a lot of books. I read occasionally. I'm not that avid reader, but yeah, I do.
Any couple of books that comes to your mind which has...
For startup world, I would say Hard Things About Hard Things is one of the good books because it gives you clear Ben Horowitz, ups and downs and all, what people would face.
What is your most favorite travel destination?
I've been to UK, Europe, Australia and all, but I would like to explore places which are maybe I'd like to go to Turkey or maybe Kazakhstan or those kind of places. I've never been there. Maybe I would like to go sometime.
Okay. What's your favorite food place in Bangalore, in India, and US?
In India, actually my brother and nephew just started a restaurant called Neemsi in JP Nagar. It's a pure veg restaurant.
Neemsi?
Neemsi, Neem plus Tulsi combination. Last few days I've been there and giving them a lot of feedback and all. So, but I like to try different food actually. So, like there's a North Indian non-veg cuisine called Karama. I like that. I drive some 50 kilometers to a place called Arabs. Then there's a organic food place, Go Native. That's another good one. Kareem's open up center in Bangalore. I've tried several times. So I don't drink or smoke, so I generally avoid places with this alcohol. So I go to these places which are good North Indian veg, non-veg cuisines.
What is one thing that you're teaching your kids, or what are certain things that you want your kids to learn from you, sir?
One is don't be afraid to take a risk, right? Because if you take risk, then only luck will have a chance to favor you. If you don't, there's nothing to, right? Second, always try to specialize and go deep, because that's where the moat is. If you are superficial, you'll give it up and nothing will work actually. So go deep. That's where the innovation is. That's where the differentiation is. Doesn't matter what you do. Every industry has an opportunity, but go real deep. Specialize.
What are certain things that gives you real happiness?
Something which is actually like fundamentally, as I was mentioning, first principle thinking, right? When you try to solve a problem very differently, if it works, it gives you a lot of kick.
Got it. What was the lowest point in your life, and what was the best advice you received at that point?
Yeah, lowest point, I would say 2 points. I would say once after 3 years of my SearchEnabler journey, like when I was filling up the form for school admission for my younger one for LKG, he didn't get admission in any of the 4 schools which I applied for. Whereas the same 4 schools, all 4 schools, my elder one got the admission because I was paying putting the salary. And I was very frank that I didn't have salary, so I put I'm an entrepreneur, I'm figuring out. And none of the school called. I said, like, my risk should not impact my family. That was my lowest point. I was really feeling bad at the time, right? So I think schools need to change the way they evaluate or whatever it is, right? And the second lowest point was actually when we pivoted to Whatfix in the first few months. I had run out of my money. Varas said he has only 6 months cash left in his bank. I took some support from my friends and families. And we said, if things doesn't work by December, we'll shut down.
And November, you got Helion ka.
Yeah, that was the second lowest point, actually. We were actually really running towards that like flying.
How did you convince Helion that time?
I think traction convinced, actually.
What's on your bucket list right now, sir?
I want to travel a lot. As I was saying, like with my family, actually, my kids have grown up in this journey in the last 8-9 years. I didn't get much time to actually take them out. I would like to spend more time, take them around, show them the world. That's my bucket list, and that's what I would like to do a lot.
Which is your favorite listed company?
Favorite listed company? I think things have changed a lot actually in the last few years. I used to evaluate the companies which are really growing fast, Snowflakes of the world and all, Datadogs. But then last 12, 18 months even, I have realized that just growth is not sufficient actually. You need to make good money as well, right? I think at scale, what Microsoft is doing is phenomenal, right? Microsoft always, doesn't matter what category they have missed the bus, they run and catch. And not only catch, they take the driver's position.
Now they are making Google dance, they say.
So I think throughout from last 20, 30 years, like whether it's cloud or whether it's now AI or whether it's enterprise softwares, many times they miss the bus, but they have taken the pole position after that.
And which is your favorite non-listed company, sir?
Whatfix.
Apart from Whatfix, most of the founders say that their own company, but I just forgot the keyword, yeah.
Yeah, non-listed companies. See, there are a lot of founders which I respect actually. I learn from them, right? I have Ravi Teja and Naga from MoEngage. Phenomenal guys, man. They very fundamental first principle thinking they have. Krishna from Mindtickle, of course, public company. If you want, Girish, I have learned a lot. So these are the few guys actually, and then which are Bhaskar from Amagi. Really cool.
We're hosting Bhaskar, sir.
Yeah, phenomenal. So then I learned a lot from Anish, Capillary. A few founders I respect what they have done, what they have built.
Makes sense. If you had to go with dinner with someone at this point of time, which founder or which celebrity you would go dinner with?
I would go more with my family, with my kids and my wife actually. But founders and celebrities, maybe I need to learn a lot. So it doesn't matter. I would like to go with, of course, all these founders which I spoke. Okay. Of course, everything to learn from them. So more time I spend, every time I learn something new.
Thanks a ton, sir. Really, really grateful. I learned a lot of things, and hopefully this is going to be very helpful for a lot of folks.